A soil tensiometer, the way I want to look at it is almost like a giant soil root that you put out there on the bog, but it's an objective apparatus that can be used to assess the energy level of the water in the soil, and it also gives you an indication as to when the plant needs the water or whether the water has been depleted in the soil. So basically, a tensiometer has a ceramic tip and a water holding cylinder. So when the soil water dries, the water in the cylinder comes out from the cylinder through the ceramic tip, and it goes into the soil. And that water coming from the cylinder, the gauge, the pressure gauge, the vacuum gauge on the cylinder, it is reduced because you're losing water, and that measurement of pressure gives you an indication as to whether the plant requires water. On the other hand, if there's too much water in the soil, what tends to happen is the water in the soil goes into the ceramic tip and into the cylinder, and that reduces the tension gauge in the cylinder, and that gives you an indication that you have excessive amount of water, so you need to quit irrigating or putting in extra water.
Hi, today I'm showcasing two kinds of tensiometers. As you know, a tensiometer is a piece of equipment that is used in a field to tell how much water is in the soil, and also an instrument that can be used for a grower to decide when to irrigate. So the two kinds of tensiometers that I have is, one is a manual tensiometer, the other one is a wireless tensiometer. Let me start with the manual tensiometer. What it has is it has a ceramic tip, and it has a vacuum cylinder and a gauge on it. So I want to look at a tensiometer as if it's a giant plant root. So around the ceramic tip, it absorbs water from the soil. And as the water is uptaken through the ceramic tip into the cylinder, it corresponds to a number on the gauge. If water is being taken from the soil into the cylinder, it shows that there's a relaxation in terms of tension on the gauge. But if, on the other hand, if the soil is dry, water will move from the cylinder through the ceramic tip into the soil, and that corresponds to a tightening of the tension. And those numbers, for us in Cranberry, we're looking at numbers between about 3 to about 6 kilopascal or centibars. And when you get those numbers, you are in the sweet spot. Anything greater than, say, 6.5, it means you need to start to irrigate. Or anything below, say 2.5, it means you are too wet, you have to quit irrigating. This is the manual tensiometer. And then the wireless tensiometer is the same principle. You have a ceramic tip and you have a cylinder. But in this particular case, this particular equipment is attached to a GPS referenced wireless unit that sends a signal to either your computer or to your phone so that you can read the numbers. Depending on what is going on in the soil, if the soil is dry, water will enter through the ceramic tip into the cylinder, and that will reduce that will cause a tension on the reading. And if there is excess moisture in the soil, it means water is going to come from the soil in through the tip into the cylinder, and that will cause a relaxation of the tension, and that might mean you don't need to irrigate.